everyone here, our esteemed panelists, my co-moderator, Prakhar Singh Thakur, and all the participants who have joined us. I, Jagrati Bhairani, on behalf of IMA MSN MP, take this opportunity to thank our respected panelists of the day, Dr. Sumer Sethi sir and Dr. Deepti Bahal ma'am, for taking out time from their precious schedule to join us today. I hope everyone is safe in their homes and studying for their pre-PG and pre-university exams. Talking of exams, I think we all are struggling because we are not able to achieve our daily goals. The pandemic has not only affected our healthcare system, but also our education system. Thus today, we have two panelists, Dr. Sumer Sethi sir and Dr. Deepti Bahal ma'am, who will be educating us about managing learning as a medical student in pandemic. I'd like to start by introducing our panelists. Dr. Sumer Sethi sir, he is MD radiologist, entrepreneur, blogger, innovator, TEDx speaker, motivator, and director at DAMS. And we have with us Dr. Deepti Bahal ma'am. She is one of the best faculty for obstetrics and gynecology in India, and she is motivator at DAMS. Over to you, sir.
Okay. I would want you to see a picture in front of you on the screen. And I would like to ask the students who are listening to me here, what do you see here? What do you see here? Some of you will think that I can see some dark clouds. This is a dark clouds, and some of you will say that there is a cyclone coming up because of the recent cyclone that happened in Kolkata. Some of you would say, okay, the weather is not right. Some of you would be more smart, this is solar eclipse about to happen. But some of you will see there is a silver lining to the clouds. And that is what my entire viewpoint in life is, that every time we are able to see something, while we are facing a negative scenario, we are facing an uncontrollable pandemic worldwide. But, in all that, all that of darkness that is around, there is still a silver lining around. And that is the silver lining I will, introduce to you today. My idea and my number one message that I want to give to all the children, all the young candidates, all the doctors who are listening to me today is optimism. We have to have an optimistic picture about the future. This optimism is so important, because if I am pessimistic about what will happen in the future, I will not be able to put hard work into my today. So to be able to put my effort into today, I need to have an optimistic picture about tomorrow. And that is my rule number one in my life. I am optimistic to the level of maybe foolhardiness. So many times people will say, what do you think will happen? I say, good will come out of it. So somebody will ask me that what will come out of this pandemic? Something good will come out of it is what I believe. So that is optimism. Now let's see and understand. Again, I want you to see on the front of you on the screen two words I've written: crisis, opportunity. What we are encountering today is a crisis. But every time in the world, wherever in the world we have had crisis, every time smart people have been able to see opportunity in that crisis. I'll give you an example. And I think that example will work out very well for the children who are listening to me today. Now, recently we had a AIIMS exam getting postponed. The AIIMS exam was supposed to happen in May, and because of the pandemic and the lockdown, it got postponed to June. Now, what do you think? Is this a crisis or is this an opportunity? What do you think? Exam is postponed. Crisis or opportunity? What is your idea about it? And I'm sure most of the children were, worried. Many students said, "Arey, it's a crisis aa gaya. Abhi kaise karenge? Ab to paper hi late ho gaya, and the paper may not happen." And they were so worried. Now, yesterday, after the AIIMS result was declared, the day before yesterday, I took around 25 interviews of DAM students who have done very well in the AIIMS exam. And in those 25 interviews, at least 4 students mentioned to me that because of the delay in the exam, they got 1 month extra to prepare, and that is the reason they could get into AIIMS. Now, I want to see the perspective again. Others were thinking that the exam delay is a crisis. These children, they were not so well prepared till May, and they got the opportunity that the exam is delayed, and so they got 1 month extra and they made it to AIIMS. So how you look at a problem is the key here. You cannot control a pandemic, at an individual level, probably, at the epidemiological level and a bigger picture that you learn in community medicine, you will definitely be able to look at solutions. But as an individual, we can control how we react to the crisis, how we react to the problem. So I hope you see those 4 children that I interviewed said very categorically that if the exam would have happened in May, we were not prepared. But just because the exam was 1 month extra, I got 30 days extra, I studied well, and I converted crisis into opportunity, and I am sitting with you and giving an interview after getting a great rank in the AIMS exam. So I hope that gives you the first idea that I wanted you to all have. You cannot control the situation, but how we react to it is always in our control. It is always in our control how we react to a situation, how we think about a situation. And that is where I always have, I always say that optimistic people, the optimists always have an advantage. Because what happens is an optimistic person would always look at a problem, a situation as an opportunity. A pessimistic person will look at a situation as a problem. So the key here is, if it's an opportunity, I need to work, I need to improve on it. I'll show you another example of how the crisis means. This is a picture from a DAMS DVD session which we conducted in October 2019. October 2019, we conducted an event in Talkatoro Stadium, which was attended by 4,000 students. And in this event, we discussed a lot of questions that came in the exam and all those things. But the key here was, we personally met each one of the students. We kind of shook hands with them, and we, understood their issues, and we helped them a lot of it, in a personal manner. And now that is 2019. That is, I'm not talking about 1986 or something. 2019. This was the scenario. 2020 in the March or in the April, we have a lockdown. We have a pandemic. The streets are empty. The classrooms are empty. But the need is there. The educators need to teach. The children need to study. So what we did was, we on our eMedicos app, we converted eMedicos app with we worked hard. We converted it into a live classroom platform where we could do a live class, and this is a snapshot which you see here of a live class. Again, if you notice, the key here was everybody was looking at it like a crisis. If it's a crisis, how will we study? But the optimism inside me thought that this is an opportunity to look at the app-based learning and create something for the students in the the difficult times. And not only did we innovate, I want you to see how students innovated. Now imagine within 2 months, now the students are sitting. Students are sitting at different positions. Somebody is opening the tablet like this, the phone like this, and making notes, learning with the teachers together. And some of them actually improvised on how to take a selfie with the teachers also. Earlier they were taking a selfie with the teachers in the stage. Now they could take a selfie on the phone, and they improvised. But now if you notice, this is the innate human strength. We adapt very fast. The human being, why we are different from animals and other people, other kind of species is, other species are only bothered about food and basic needs. Human beings, they seek higher dreams. We seek higher impact. We seek purpose in life. So the educators, the teachers who want to teach, they cannot be without that ability to teach. They cannot sit at home. They want to have that ability, and the innovation happens. So the need, the crisis is the driver of innovation. Now, if you notice, when we begin today's event, you had that telemedicine people, showing their advertisement. Now, you remember 3 months back, there was, actually nobody talking about telemedicine. Suddenly, now the patients are needing a doctor's opinion. A doctor wants to give his opinion because it is his purpose of his life, and the technology, helps them. And a technology, once it is well done, then it becomes invisible. Then it is not about technology at all. It is only about, two people talking to each other. Now, I understand today we are doing this e-event or a webinar, but it is actually between a person that is me and a person that is you, and we are able to talk to each other. And I believe that the human touch is the critical asset which will, happen. And if I now crystal ball, especially in the education sector, what would happen is that once this pandemic is over, we would see people valuing the human touch even more. Because today, when we are sitting at home, we know how much, we are missing the real classroom. I was talking to Jagrati before the event started, and we were talking about the TEDx event that I attended in Bhopal. And in the live audience, when you are on the stage, it is such a amazing feeling. So I believe that what will happen is people will start valuing the human touch, sitting in a doctor's OPD even more, and the doctors will also use technology also to reach out even more, and we will see a hybrid developing. And that is how the world has evolved. So world has evolved over the years with series of crisis, innovation, then corrections. That means during the crisis time, everybody starts to think that probably the webinar would be the key to education. Earlier, people were thinking only the classroom is the key to innovation, but in the end, you'll find a blend happening. You'll find a blend. I'm sure you might have talked about this in multiple webinars before as well. But I think I want to address this question because I saw in the initial questionnaire also that many people want to talk about it. Now, what we need to understand is next would happen. So there is no confusion right now that some people are saying maybe the next is cancelled. It's nothing like that. Next will happen. The only debate is it will happen in which year? Will it happen in 2022 or 2023? That is the only debate. Okay. Once the next will come, it will serve 2-3 purposes. Number one purpose is it will serve as a licensing exam, and once you pass the next, then only you will be able to do internship. That means next will happen at the end of final year. If I was a medical graduate listening to myself right now, the first thing I want all the children of second, third year who are listening to me right now to understand that the exam that you will appear for will happen at the end of final year, not at the end of internship like it is happening right now. Today you have a NEET PG exam happening at the end of internship. Next will happen at the end of final year. And if you don't pass next, part 1, you will not be allowed to do internship. That means this has never happened in India so far. We never had a barrier to internship. You remember now, today you remember if today you see your seniors, they pass their final year, they become interns. So now you have a barrier. You need to pass next one. So that is called as licentiate exam. Okay. And that is the same is true for even for America as well. So in America, the licentiate exam is called as US Medical Licensing Exam. In UK, it is called as PLAB, and soon they are looking to introduce UK MLE, which is UK Medical Licensing Exam in similar lines. So with this will make India at par with all other countries where you have a licensing exam for the graduates. And this would, the vision that the government and the Medical Council of India and National Medical Commission has here is, once the structure is standardized, the respect that you get as a graduate globally will improve. Because what will happen is that today, why do we respect anybody who has graduated, who is graduating in medicine in America? Because we know they all give a common exam. Like suppose if I finish my radiology in America, or from Chicago or from Kansas, from any place, what would happen is I would have to write an exam called as American Board of Radiology. The exam is single for everybody. And that is the vision that the government has even at a postgraduate level also. So it will begin at the graduate level. Ultimately, it has to come at a postgraduate level. Then it will one day, I am not giving you any time frames right now, but one day it will even happen at the level of practitioners, which is called as licentiate continuation. Or, you have to have an exam or CME to continue the license. So that, like let's imagine, like suppose I'm a doctor and I am not studying for the last 5 years, but I'm practicing. I'm a health hazard to people that I'm not updating myself. I do not know what is the drugs right now. So, I need to update myself. So this is the viewpoint that they have about the licentiate exam. But the second thing they have introduced is that the score in the next part 1 will also be counted for your PG rank. So that, we can decide, because in residency there is competition. It is not just an India scenario, it is a global scenario. Even in America, if you do a residency, if you want to do in surgery, ophthalmology, dermatology, radiology, these are competitive. Many people want to do residency in them. So what will happen is, you need a objective parameter to decide who gets into radiology, who gets into dermatology, and that is the score. Many times, over the years, I have been a part of so many debates, and people have talked about what else to include. Like recently in America, there's a debate going on that in 2022, they will make step 1, USMLE step 1 as a pass and fail exam in 2022 or 2023. So once they make the exam pass fail, then what will decide who gets the residency? Understand? So now either they make the step 2 CK score important, or they make the LORs and the clinical rotations and the letter of recommendations more important. But then Americans are also human. Letter of recommendation, more likely they will give letter of recommendation to a white American person. The civil war happening in America right now, and the international medical graduates will be at a disadvantage to get a good quality letter of recommendation from Harvard or Mayo. It's very tricky. So in a country as diverse as India, we need an objective parameter, and the objective parameter for PG seats in future will be next part 1 score. Okay. Now, once you pass your next, you have a score which will be able to allot you your PG, but the counseling will not happen. The counseling for PG seat will not happen. You will do your internship. Okay, I hope I am able to answer your questions now. You will do your internship. At the internship, and the end of it, there will be an exam called as next part 2, which will be a practical pass-fail exam on the lines of USMLE step 2 CS, like you have clinical skills exam in America, and like you have PLAB part 2 in UK. On those lines, the blueprint is yet to be released here on part 2. But on those lines, the exam will be taken on a pass-fail manner. You pass the exam, your license becomes complete, and you are now eligible for counseling with your internship completion certificate, and you will apply for PGC. The scoring parameter will be next part 1. Now, many people have asked me about these subjects. The subject most important for next part 1 will be it will be bent towards clinical, because in all the meetings and all the discussions I have had so far, and I've understood so far, that the next is going to be more clinical predominant. You will have predominant questions from clinical specialties. What do I mean by clinical is medicine and allied specialties, surgery and allied, obs and gynae and allied, okay, ENT, ophthalm, pediatrics. This would form the core of your paper. But because they don't want you to ignore your basic sciences, in every paper they would have 10% questions on basic sciences. And community medicine will be a part of every exam. That is the broad structure that is being proposed for the exam. And it is proposed that the exam would be a long length exam, multiple day exam, so that they can properly test the ability of the students. It will be a multiple choice question paper exam. But the questions in next will be more long stem questions, more analytical questions, more comprehension based questions. And that is where an important concept I wanted to highlight to you today is integration. Now what will happen in the future is, and it is very important for all the graduates who are listening to me today, or the medical students listening to me today, that the exam will not only, the structure would change from those recall based questions. A lot of students keep asking me, sir, a most common side effect batao na drug ka. So what is the second most common effect side effect? Third most, abhi ye nahi aayega, main bol raha hu nahi aayega. Okay? So the key here is they will go away from the, the one-liners and the recall kind of rectification, and they will make it integrated. Why is this so important? Why I'm so much stressing on it? This year in the AIMS exam, you had questions on microbiology, which were structured in a clinical vignette format, but the question was about the drug to be used in that infection. So I hope you understand, there was a clinical scenario with lab findings of an infective process, but the answer was about the drug to be used there. So they integrated pharmacology and microbiology this year in AIMS exam. Last year in NEET PG 2020, the entire paper was primarily based on clinical vignettes. Now, clinical vignettes, you need to kind of read a long stem question just like you are dealing with a clinical situation. And then they test a testing objective. That testing objective can be, say a basic science objective or a community medicine objective or a core clinical objective, but they test something based on a clinical vignette. For example, I'll give you an example. Suppose you have a question saying a patient comes to you with vague pain abdomen. Okay, vague pain abdomen, and he was evaluated in multiple by clinical methods, but nothing significant was revealed. And in continuation of his evaluation, a CT scan of the abdomen was done. And CT scan of the abdomen revealed horseshoe kidney in the image. And they do not write horseshoe kidney in the question, they show an image of horseshoe kidney. And the question is asked is, at the level of which vessel the ascent of the involved organ is arrested. Now we need to understand that the kidney develops in the pelvis and then it ascends upwards. In horseshoe kidney, you have an isthmus, which is joining the lower pole of the kidneys here. So what happens is when it is ascending upwards, the lowermost ventral branch of the aorta is the inferior mesenteric artery. At the level of inferior mesenteric artery, the horseshoe kidney cannot go up. So the ascent of the horseshoe kidney is arrested at inferior mesenteric artery. Now what happens is the question was starting with pain abdomen. The image was radiology, but the answer is hidden in the depth of embryology. And that is going to be the theme of the exam, especially for basic sciences. They will not go towards, what is the most common cause of epiglottitis in India? And the questions which irritate me most are, what is the most common cause of this disease in world? What is the most common cause in India? So what are we making, the key here is that we have to understand, and today the entire world is actually understanding that we don't want to make doctors this, rote learners who are mugging it up. We need to make them understand how the disease process is there. And that is, where, if I don't know how many of you have actually attended a class of mine or not. So in my classes, I will always say that, okay, bhai, most common vagera hatao. Abhi we will learn about how a disease is progressing and how and why rheumatoid arthritis looks like this. Now, for example, I'll give you another example. Like we all know that, in rheumatoid arthritis, we all know in rheumatoid arthritis, we have an inflammatory joint disease. So many times in the exam, they say, what will happen on an X-ray in a patient with rheumatoid arthritis? So I would always tell them that, okay, let's understand that if you have blood vessels around the bone, these blood vessels will resorb the calcium. Okay, the blood vessels in the bone, they take the calcium to maintain the blood calcium levels. Okay, now I want you to answer the candidates who are listening to me today. Can you think and tell me, what do you think will happen around the joints in rheumatoid arthritis? It's an immune disease. You will have inflammation. If there is inflammation, what will happen to the blood vessels? The cardinal hallmark of inflammation is hyperemia. You will have increased blood flow. If you have increased blood flow, what will happen to the calcium? The bone will get demineralized. And that is why you have periarticular osteoporosis in the disease. And what I believe is that is the key for future. The future lies in understanding the disease process. Now, some of you would say, sir, why should I learn anything at all? Sir, why can't I just go to the hospital and learn only the clinical skills? I'll give you an idea. And this idea is very important for all the youngsters to understand. Now, suppose, I've been a part of so many debates on medical education in the years. So, I have my own, viewpoint here. A child comes to me and says, sir, don't you think I should be learning how to put a cannula and Foley's catheter only? I don't want to learn any theory. Now I say, but do you think the nurses and the ward boys do not know this? They also know it. So what is the difference between it? So the key here is we need to understand what makes a doctor. What is doctor? Is it only some physical skills? I beg to differ. This is the mistake that you saw even the top authorities in the country also making a mistake where we all protested. They said 6 months bridge course they will make a doctor. They don't understand what goes into a doctor. They don't follow. Doctor is not 5-6 skills of BP, pulse, like this is not doctor. A doctor is one who understands what is happening. Now when I look at a disease as a doctor, I know the anatomy where the problem is. I know the pathological processes, I know the cytokines, I know why ESR is happening, what is inflammation, interleukin, I know tocilizumab, I know so many things which are being used today in the COVID pandemic. So I have that knowledge, I know how those drugs act, what is their side effect. I also have clinical skills to identify them. So what a good doctor has is, he has knowledge plus skills. Okay, knowledge plus the actual skills, put them together. But I want to tell you, I wanted to talk about this. Okay, so the third missing ingredient of a great doctor is empathy. Empathy. So a doctor, a good doctor, understands that you are not looking at images, you're not looking at cases, you're looking at real human beings. Sometimes a student, a radiology resident will come to me and say, sir, एक interesting case दिखाओ. I say, beta, ये interesting case नहीं है. It's a human being, and you're looking at the image of a human being. Have empathy, and please, understand he is suffering. He has a family member. He is somebody like you with a child or a parent or a wife or brother. And let's have that empathy. So what I believe is that your knowledge is your first pillar of becoming a great doctor. So if you don't have knowledge, how will you work with the skills alone? So knowledge plus skills makes a excellent doctor, but to become a great doctor, you need empathy elsewhere. You need to understand the other person's perspective. And then I also think that, whenever I talk to, my teachers at DAMS and, my junior radiology residents, I talk to, so many doctors and so many doctors in DAMS who come to attend our classes. So, some of them would say, what makes a great teacher? Again, I would, again emphasize the same word to you. That word is empathy. A great teacher needs empathy, needs to understand what a child needs to follow, how a child thinks. If I understand how he thinks, then only I can teach. Otherwise, I will, display a PowerPoint and just, say next, and go home. So if that relationship forms when I think about the situation from the other person's perspective. And as a doctor, I believe that we have a blessing. As a doctor, we have a blessing that we can understand so much. Now, today, if you talk to, I don't know how many of you children have, experienced this today. In the last 2-3 months, don't you see there are so many people asking you what's going on? Suddenly the entire world is looking towards the doctors and say, sir, आप बताओ क्या हो रहा है, समझ ही नहीं आ रहा, WhatsApp पे इतनी information भेजे जा रहे. So suddenly the world over, the value that the doctor, the medical profession has increased. So today you have a privilege that you understand what is happening. You understand what is Remdesivir, what is Tocilizumab, you understand FabiFlu. We understand what is happening. For others, it is just names. We understand cytokine crisis, we understand platelet count, we understand hypercoagulability. Others are, not, you talk to them, they're shivering. So as a doctor, we have a privilege that we understand human body. We understand the normalcy and abnormality, and we understand the balance that is between them. We understand how a process can go wrong and become a disease. And that privilege, we have to share with others with empathy. That will make you a great doctor. That will make you great. And that is I believe that is what you need as a teacher, as a doctor, empathy. So if you notice, the words that I wanted to, push into your young minds today are, if you notice, I said patience. Because I know today in your generation, you have been so lucky that you always had everything at the fingertips. Kuch chahiye abhi, Amazon click buy, those chahiye to add friend, instant gratification. So, but today I want you to have patience, because in this pandemic, you will not get instant gratification. You need patience. Samay lagega solve hone mein bache. So have patience. But look at the silver lining with optimism. Be grateful for what you have.
And there are different circumstances that we fall into, but the two most vital organs in your body, I mean, all organs are important, but the two most vital organs are the brain and the heart. And I think we have to learn to work or make them work in sync. Now, I just expand on what I'm trying to say, and I hope I make sense on that. So when I say the brain and the heart have to work in sync so that you achieve success in your journey. Now, when I say you make them work in sync, and a lot of times, people would ask you that, how do you get all this endurance that you need to succeed? I would always say that when we talk about endurance in our branch in medical science, it's not actually physical endurance. It's about the mind. It's about the mind game, right? And to keep moving forward with the same energy, one very important thing that each one of us must have is first a big dream. I think he's already talked about that. We shouldn't limit ourselves. We have immense potential. And we should have big dreams to make difference, and as he said, to make a dent in the universe. And then, it's very important that if you have a dream, you also know your why. Why do you have that dream? I believe each one of you should have a why attached to your dream, because that's what gives sense to your dream. You know, otherwise it's just like dreaming anything. It's not magic. There has to be a why to your dream. So each one of you, you know, whatever you are excelling for in life, if you find your why and if you write it down on a piece of paper, put it down on your, you know, your workstations or your tables, right? And you keep looking into it. This is the reason why I started. This is the reason why I'm here. And whenever you feel those difficult times or lows in your life, you go back to your why, and it will keep you giving the energy that you need to succeed, right? So know your why, have a big dream, and have a desire to achieve it. And when I said have, you know, it's a game of mind and heart. What do I mean when I say heart? I often see students crumbling under pressure. So another very important thing that I want you people as medical graduates also to understand is that you have to be kind to yourself. Okay, there are going to be times that, you know, there are tough situations and not every day is going to be the same. And it is this, in this difficult time, that you realize that it's okay. You identify what your body is trying to tell you, and you should be kind to yourself. And you know, we actually got some queries like, you know, okay, ma'am or sir, this is like a 2-month break. Tell me, what should I do? How? And you know, you have to tell them that this is not a 2-month break. This is something very severe, very drastic that we are dealing with. It's not a holiday. It's not a vacation. You will have a lot of pressures. You will have a lot of things to worry about as children in the house, as you know, as interns or whatever roles you are playing. There will be pressures every day that you will be dealing with. And in this is the time that you have to realize that it's not that you see, oh, वो तो 2 घंटे ज़्यादा पढ़ लिया और मैं तो duty कर रहा था. You know, so you have to learn to be kind to yourself. And once you learn to be kind to yourself, to identify these signals that your body is giving you, and take those, give your body a little break. And you know, that it give you the good harmony that I'm talking about, that you need between your brain and your heart to keep you going in a tough journey. Yes, and you have to make your life meaningful. So you know, you will look out for you know, big challenges. And it's not because, you know, you're trying to prove yourself, but it is because you want to make your life worthwhile. A lot of times when you pick up big dreams, people make fun of you, saying, क्या जरूरत है इतना टेंशन करने की, जो मिल रहा है ले लो, जो करना है कर लो, why do you want to do this? So you know, it's not that you're trying to prove something to them or to your parents or to the world around. It's eventually your life, your journey, and you're only trying to make it worthwhile. You know, in the end, you know, people say when you're going for a heavenly abode, you will see your life in a short span crossing through, and you will love it if you've made it worthwhile. So I want you all to have this emotional quotient attached to your journey, and I'm actually getting emotional when I say that, right? So I want you all to have that kindness to yourself. It's okay. Every day is not same. Some days you'll be in a good mood, in a good body frame, in a good mind frame, and you will be able to excel and give out more energy that day. There will be another day where you are, you know, you have certain pressures, things are not going how they exactly should be or how perfect they should be. And it's okay. It's okay if it's not perfect, right? So you have to understand that. The key is to be consistent. Keep moving forward. Doesn't matter how slow your progress is. If it is progress, you will succeed in your journey. And I would just, you know, sort of end my message by saying that, you know, you should not downgrade your dreams, right, to fit in your reality. Upgrade your conviction to meet your destiny. And that's what I would, you know, that would be my small message for you. So I hope you all learn, and it's an art, to make your brain and heart work in harmony so that you be, you know, compassionate not only to others but to yourself as well. Be kind, but be determined, have big dreams and achieve them. Right? I wish you all the very best, and I think we'll hand over to Jagrati and Prakhar to go forward with the Q&A session now.
Thank you so much, sir and ma'am. This was really an informative and insightful session. All the students must be really motivated to study more, boosted up with all their doubts and everything solved. And even I am myself very much boosted up to study and not bother about the pandemic going on. I'll hand over the mic to Prakhar to continue with the Q&A session.
Hello, sir and ma'am.
Hi, Prakash.
We have some questions. First question is, how we can do specific as productive learning? How do we know that we are learning right?
Okay, so I'll take that one. And if I have heard you correct, Prakhar, it is about how do we know we are going right? Is that
Yes,
what
ma'am.
that? Yes. So that's a good thing that someone has asked. It's very important to know that the path you've taken is the right path or not. And in order to find that out, you have to keep testing yourself time and on. And so that is the importance of giving yourself certain targets, meeting those targets, and not only meeting those targets, it is an analysis of the target to find out, whether you have come up with the right or desired outcome or not. And I will explain this in a certain way. If you see an Olympic race, a lot of people are running in the Olympic race, right? And almost everyone is going to finish the race. Yes. So similarly, your medical graduates, if I do consider this medical entrance exam as a race, we're all running for it. And almost everyone is going to reach the end point as well. But the idea was not simply to finish it, right? The idea we started it with was to have a desired outcome. And, this is why, to know you're on the right track is very important. So give yourself short targets, put yourself to testing, and keep analyzing your testing performance. It's not just giving the test. Analysis of it is the most important thing, which will tell you whether you're on the right track or not. So, so many of these students are really scared of testing or putting themselves to test. What they would do is they would just study. And we do get those messages on and off. I'm studying for 12 hours, 18 hours, 10 hours, right? But they somehow lack the confidence that they should have by putting in so much hard work. So, how do you get that confidence? The confidence will come when you only go out in the field, face a ball and hit a six. I mean, there is always going to be a doubt that, oh, I might get out, right? My wicket just might go. But there is also a possibility that you would hit a sixer, right? So the only way to deal with it, to know whether you are preparing well or not, whether you have trained well or not, is to go out on the field, battlefield, cricket field, examination field, go out, put yourself to test and analyze.
And I like to add here is that the key that DT has correctly mentioned is be putting yourself to test. Just say, like, one day a patient will also judge you on outcomes. You were treating him well, but if he does not survive, the patient is not, the family is not going to be happy. The outcome. So similarly, when you are studying, you have to balance, like we tell in DAMS also to all our students, is to, after you do a class, give a test. And that outcome, that how well I'm able to do in the test, will tell you how well I prepared. And then analyze what went wrong so that you don't repeat the mistake, and then you go back again.
Okay, thank you, sir and ma'am. What is going to be different in next and NEET? What changes if preparation is required?
I think, I have kind of preempted and taken a lot of the things in it before, but I'll explain it again. Next will be a longer exam. It would happen a year early. It would have clinical predominance. The type of questions will become more analytical and understanding.
And long stem.
So what I believe is, instead of rote learning, वो हाथ रख के रटने की जगह, you read to understand. एक बार समझने के लिए पढ़ेंगे, मजा भी आएगा और एग्जाम में रैंक भी अच्छा आएगा. That is the entire thing now. The exam, like, I'll tell you an idea that in exams like USMLE, the normal values of calcium and pH and everything is given to you. So you don't need to remember it, you just need to analyze the question and give it. And I think that is the direction we are moving in India now, that we will go towards analytical exams. The biggest change you need to do as our candidate is understand. Whenever you're in a classroom, listen to understand what is going on, then make a note so that you have something to ready reference with you later on. That should be your key. Don't just go and do previous MCQs and रटते रहो A इसका B नहीं वैसे.
Thank you, sir. My next question is from so many students, and that is there are just 6 months left for the PG exam, and people are busy with their internships because COVID is going on. So how to balance both of them?
Okay, so I think that's a typical question that the interns often want to ask because they always feel they're short of time because of the tremendous pressure of the internship duties, and especially with the COVID, I'm sure things are even more heavier for them. So I would again say that try and look at the positive aspect of everything. That's also Dr. Sumedh has said. And I would say probably you should take your internship as a blessing in disguise. And I will tell you what I actually mean here. So, you know, when you're doing an internship, the most important thing that you are fearing is, less time for preparation. So I would say rather, how do I say that take it as a blessing in disguise? You know, when you have less time, you would automatically try and select what is high yielding, which means you will give priority to things which are taught in the class by the faculty rather than trying to collect more and more information, because medical science is just vast. If you open up the internet, there is a plethora of resources who are all bombarding things at you, and you don't even know whether that is asked or not, or how it is asked, how exactly the question would be framed, how would the options be framed to confuse you, and you simply are spending a lot of time, but again the outcome probably is not that good. And therefore, when you are doing internship and you have lesser time, you automatically go towards, okay, let me do this, what sir and ma'am has told in class, at least itna to kar lo rather than doing something else. And in the end, what happens is when you have this mind frame and you are prioritizing your notes, you are preferentially doing the most probable or the most high yielding topics which have a likelihood of being asked. And that is why you are likely to hit more number of questions in the exams as compared to people who were collecting a lot of data or collecting a lot of information, but eventually don't remember any of it. So if you're an intern, my sincere advice to you would be stick or make your notes your priority. Reading them multiple times would be much more beneficial than trying to collect information, right? Don't do that. Internship is not a time to collect new information. It is time to consolidate things. It is time to revise things. And if you stick to this plan, you will do well. With, yes, intermingled with some question practice and testing yourself, which is an essential component, because when you appear for exams, there are three components. There is content, there is exam skill, and there is revision. So yes, you will have to put yourself to testing intermittently to see whether you're on right track or not. But a good mix of these two things is what you actually need. So don't try and increase bulk of your work. You already are loaded with a lot of work. Keep your work to smart study. Internship is a time for smart study, okay? Not a time to open textbooks. That is what something that we should have done or would have done during our undergraduation.
And I'd like to add a line here that all the interns should understand that it is not only you who is suffering right now. The entire intern batch who is going to appear for the exam is in the same boat. So if you all are in the same boat, the competition, the benchmark is also changing. ऐसा नहीं है ना कि बाकी पढ़ रहे हैं आप every place the internship is getting heavy and the the duties are in the because of the COVID and everything. So this year if you can work forward with optimism कि हो पाएगा, work smart, just like you said, work smart. Don't overburden yourself with multiple resources. There is no need. Stick to one resource and stick to what teachers have taught you. Only revise that much. It is more than enough. And put yourself to testing. But believe in कि हो पाएगा. कर सकते हैं क्योंकि sometime not everybody has सभी लोग नहीं कर पाएंगे.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next question is, first, second, and third prof student should learn from colleges, books, videos. Which is the best way to balance?
See, what I want you to know today is that there is no replacement for standard textbooks. Now, what has happened is over the years, I see that people have been earlier people were pushing a lot of guidebooks, and I see a lot of people pushing the same guidebook like thing into different digital packaging and mobile apps. So, but as a child who was in first, second year, third year, you still have the opportunity to read quality books. And this is what I tell in each of my dance class that Peter, if you go back after a pathology class in second year, you should go back and read that topic from Robbins. And instead of going for a like Like you have that opportunity to read the best. Like what is a book? Book is an educator written in a book. So, you know, when you have the choice to make, why can't I select the best book available? I'll give you an idea that, you know, I hope that helps you. When I was in my first prof, the only reason I could reach where I have reached is because at my first prof in my physiology, all students were reading a shortcut book, which was not a shortcut, but like a pass kind of a book. And I read Genome. The only reason was that I read Genome. And till today, if you notice in the AIMS exam and the PGI exam, they have questions from Genome. So I would say that let's, you know, in the first, second, third year, your focus should be understanding in the classroom, be it your coaching class, be it your college class, but then follow it up with textbook. Because in internship and later on years, you will not have time for textbooks.
And I think this is something that is probably or should be common to, I think, most of the medicals. Like if I talk about myself, I'm still very excited if I get a new book. So just yesterday, I ordered a book from Amazon, and you know, my son was so amazed that I'm so excited that a book has come. And you know, I immediately sat with the book. So there is so much fun from learning with a book. I think I totally agree on this, that you should not, especially in your basic years, you know, you should definitely go through standard textbook. It is going to give you a lot of fun when you read them. The idea of attending a class and taking notes is that they help you how to identify how a paragraph from a textbook could be framed into a question, right? And that is why we at AIMS, you know, we would always believe teaching from standard textbooks itself, and we would always advise our students that, you know, go back, read the notes, and then, you know, go and read your standard textbook also, because the notes would help you to quickly grasp things from it, to retain them, because the language is simpler. Now, when we say standard textbooks, one major problem with standard textbooks is that the standard textbooks are all foreign authors. Yes, I hope you all agree with me on that. And the language that they use is not a very simple language. Yes. For example, a lot of us don't even know why certain, you know, one-liners or statements are given those names. For example, cafe au lait spots. Now, for us, that's a difficult pronunciation, a difficult word. And when you travel, you realize, oh, it's just coffee color, which is what they're trying to tell you. So the language is not simple. And that's why we take a long time reading from a standard textbook. And that is why half of the students, even if they begin by themselves, they shut it down midway. Oh, ye to nahi ho pa raha hai. Right? So our idea is to simplify things, to put them with examples, with clinical case presentations, and to, you know, make it in a language which is more palatable for you so that you retain it. And then you add the fun of reading it from a textbook. So I think, yes, you should read your standard textbooks.
Okay, sir. Okay, ma'am. Our next question is how to overcome the inertia of laziness and habit of not doing anything in this lockdown.
I think laziness was already there, but the lockdown has exaggerated the laziness somehow. I think it has made it more evident. But I'll give you an idea. The idea is that, and I think, you know, a lot of second year, third year students were asking this question. बहुत सारे questions पूछे कि हम कैसे पढ़ें, कि standard book पढ़ें, कि class करें, ऐसा. But my suggestion to you is that we all need to understand that we all have inside us a positive side and a negative side. The positive side wants to achieve things, wants to dream, wants to do big things. And a negative side is a procrastinator. And this procrastinator who always wants to take over. Aaj fresh nahi, kal pad lenge. Let's do it tomorrow. Let's do it tomorrow. Aaj class nahi karte. And that is why most of the times those recorded video lectures fail. वो रिकॉर्डेड वीडियो लेक्चर्स होते हैं, वो बच्चा कहता है आज मूड नहीं, कल देखता हूँ, परसों देखता हूँ, एग्जाम आ जाता है उसके बाद देखिएगा. यू अंडरस्टैंड? सो द प्रोक्रेस्टिनेटर वो टाल रहा है, ओके, ड्रीमर करना चाहता है लेकिन ये मिस हो जाता है. यू अंडरस्टैंड? सो यू नीड टू समहाउ इंट्रोस्पेक्ट and create an invisible compass in your pocket. That means that I'll tell you how it works. I'll tell you very practical idea, है ना? जैसे एक बड़ा सपना देखा आपने कि मुझे बड़ा सर्जन बनना है, या कुछ भी आपने सोचा, उसको रखा अपनी जेब में. Next time you start procrastinating, take out that compass and remind yourself about your goal, about what your purpose in life was, and you will come back on track. Otherwise, what will happen is, if you don't have a direction, you tend to go towards randomness, procrastination. फिर वो पूरा दिन सिर्फ नेटफ्लिक्स का चैनल बदलता रहेगा और पूछता रहेगा कब पढ़ना शुरू करूं, कब पढ़ना शुरू करूं. Understand my point? So we have to handle procrastination by giving ourselves direction, and that direction you have to find. मेरा क्या है? I'll tell you an example. When I was in my school, initially I did not know what I wanted to do or how I wanted to do. But I always used to tell myself, कुछ करना है यार जिंदगी में, कुछ करना है. So that was my initial compass in my pocket. So whenever I would find myself, कुछ friend होंगे उस समय, आपके भी होंगे, जो बोलते हैं चल बाहर में चलते हैं, बियर पीते हैं, ये पार्टी करते हैं, लेकिन फिर जेब में था ना कंपास जो पता नहीं कुछ करना है, मुझे ये नहीं बनना है. And then you find your way back. So you need to have that. अपना सोचना है आपने कि what is your invisible compass, what is the direction that you seek in life. नहीं तो टाइम तो बीत ही जाएगा बच्चे. सो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस टाइम वुड पास. मैंने शुरू में भी बताया टाइम तो पास हो ही जाएगा. हो सकता है हम जिंदगी में कुछ भी ना करें, वैसे ही चले जाए, ऐसा हो ही सकता है ना. सो दैट इज व्हाट माय फियर इज. माय फियर इन लाइफ इज दैट आई डोंट वांट टू बी अ मॉडरेटली सक्सेसफुल पर्सन. मैं वो बनना नहीं चाहता. मैं वो नहीं बनना चाहता. हम फिल्मों में भी आपने देखा होगा कि देयर आर एक्टर्स दैट नोबडी नोटिसेस. मैं वो नहीं करना चाहता. मैं चाहता हूँ कि यार I have to remind myself, मैं कुछ करना बड़ा चाहता हूँ, मैं आगे बढ़ूंगा. And that helps me to come back when I'm procrastinating. And that helps me when I'm deviating. That compass helps me. I want you to keep it in your pocket. अपना याद करो, सोचो क्यों आए थे. स्कूल में भी तो किया था ना. You had that idea ना somewhere कि मुझे करना है, वो वापस लाना. Okay. Otherwise, what will happen is the time will pass, and you don't want to become a moderately successful doctor that nobody knows. वहां नहीं जाना चाहते ना हम ना. समझ रहे ना, मतलब मैं ना फेलियर और सक्सेस की बात ही नहीं कर रहा. मैं मॉडरेटली सक्सेसफुल और हाईली सक्सेसफुल. मॉडरेट सक्सेस में प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि you don't want to become a film star who comes into 2 movies, उसके बाद कोई नहीं देख रहा. या you don't want to become an author who has written a book but nobody has read. आपने किताब लिखी, आप सारा दिन इंस्टा पे डालते रहते हो, मैंने किताब लिखी, मैंने किताब को पढ़ना नहीं है ना. मॉडरेटली सक्सेसफुल is very boring, है ना. To become immensely successful, we need passion, we need direction. We need direction, we need focus, and that focus should be in your pocket. जेब में होना चाहिए. This is my direction. I have to come back to the direction every time.
That was really a very great advice, sir. Sir, next question is, how should a student do subject-wise division of time, and how can a balance between making and revising notes be made?
Okay, so I think depends on are we talking about undergraduates or we are talking about post-interns. If we are talking about undergraduates, you should give full importance to your current year subjects, and not neglect them at all. You should do your current year subjects as if you're going to do them for the last time, which means your current year subjects, you should be covering your notes, which is your theory content. You should be practicing some questions on it. Right from the DAMS question bank, and then if it is also going to be complete if you also give a post class test kind of a thing, which helps you analyze. So that's if you're an undergraduate, right? If you are a post intern and if you're asking that question, then I would say you have to restrict yourself to what you are being guided within the class. So there is a reason why we want you to follow some restricted things in anesthesia, but go a little wide in obs and gynae, or we want you to restrict yourself some amount in psychiatry, but we want you to go more wide in medicine, right? So yes, you should keep the importance of the subjects in mind if you are a post intern, so that you don't linger on things unnecessarily and thinking that you are trying to be perfect in that. So you have to judge in what phase of life you are and take a call accordingly, right? That's what I would suggest.
And I see some more questions in the chat on this regard. I just combine them here. Whatever standard textbooks you are reading should always be synchronous to the prof. Synchronous to the prof matlab, if you are in second prof, you should be reading Robbins. But I see a bacha asking me, sir, I am in final year. But a final year you should not be reading Robbins. Final year you should be focusing on your final year subjects. Yes. And for pathology, then you stick to your DAMS class notes and everything else. When you come to internship में आगे फिर अब textbook का time नहीं है, आप केवल notes हैं. And that is what DP also gave you an idea. That your idea of how why do you want to read a subject should be synchronous to the prof that you're in. First year you can do physiology zyada, lekin when you come to intern, then you have to only focus on the class notes. And especially for short subjects like psychiatry, forensic, radiology, and skin, only stick to class notes. No need for any textbooks. Your question ही कम आएंगे उनमें.
Yes. And I would also like to add here, because I feel that's what they're trying to ask, but they're not able to put it across. Probably, you know, a lot of students want to ask, I'm in final year, should I be reading entire Harrison, entire Bailey and Love, or entire Sabiston, or entire Williams? Now, this is something which needs a big clarification on. Now, if I am able to put it correctly, Dr. Sumer is also here to help me on that. Harrison is not exactly a textbook for undergraduation. If you realize your postgraduates are also reading the same textbook. Same holds true for Obbs and Diney Williams. Same holds true for Sabiston or, you know, Love and Bailey. So when you talk about these big textbooks, which are also the textbooks for your post-graduation, it is a good idea to go selective on them. For example, this is how the classes or the classrooms are going to help you. You know, we are always going to cover things which are absolutely essential at an undergraduate level, or as an intern, or as a graduate who has cleared MBBS. How much should you know as far as application is concerned when a patient comes to you and you have to see the patient as a whole? So for these kind of textbooks, it is a good idea that you see them on a case-based manner, or for example, you've seen a case today in your clinics. It's a good idea to go back and read that from these textbooks. And use your notes as a guiding force on what topics to cover from Harrison in your final year. Don't try and read it back to back. And I think reading definitely doesn't mean that you take a marker and you start marking the book from page 1, yellow, green, orange, and so on, and you color your entire book. It looks beautiful. It is very impressive to your juniors, but I don't think that has really gone into your mind or brain, and I really don't think you've learned the application of it. So it's more important. And the more I see the Central Institute exams, whether it is AIMS, PGI, JIPMER, or even NEET for that matter now, the questions have become very, very clinical. They have become application-based. They have become concept-based. They are not asking you verbatim lines of, books of Harrison or Williams, or they are asking you what have you gathered as a concept from it. So, you know, try and understand again why you need to read a standard textbook and with what context, so that you don't, so I don't want you to spend your 6 months reading medicine because you are reading Harrison, and so you have neglected all other subjects. I'm afraid, and I'm sorry to tell you, if you do that, you will not be doing well in your entrance exams, right? So don't do that. Don't sit 6 months with Harrison because you were trying to impress people around in your library that you read Harrison's. Right, read it with the right mind frame, read it for the right reasons, read the right areas, and try and get the clinical aspect of the book from it.
Well, I'll give you an idea. I'll give you an idea that how I work and how I study. You know, see, like suppose, you know, I see a book like Harrison and I find it is very big for my, you know, औकात when I'm a third year student. मुझे लगा मेरे बस का नहीं है, तो मैंने देखा ये तो बहुत बड़ा है, डर गया मैं तो. So how I study is, like suppose now I tell all my students also this trick today, that when you are sitting in a class, आप suppose आप मेरे साथ पढ़ रहे हैं, मैंने आपको epilepsy पढ़ाया. So when you're studying with me in the class and you're studying epilepsy with the teacher, now during the time when teacher is teaching you, if you are trying to fully understand, there will be some times where you will not be able to understand कि ये कौन सा तरह का epilepsy सर ने बोला. So what I want you to do is make a note of those things on the top right hand corner of your notebook. Then when you reach home, open Harrison for those very topics. Now what will happen is you're looking at the textbook to fill up the gaps in understanding which happened in the classroom. And reason those gaps happened in the classroom was because a teacher is always teaching a number of students. है ना? ऐसा one-on-one तो कोई medical science में नहीं पढ़ाएगा ना कि सिर्फ आपको सिखाएगा. It's always a group. College में भी एक board होगा, एक group होगा, tutorial group होगा, coaching में भी बच्चा होगा. So now what happens is sometimes the majority of people know this, but you do not know it. Okay, but if you make a note at that time and understand that meaning when you go home, you improve. And this is how I have been studying my entire life. Every time I read something or I attend a class, whatever I don't understand, I make a note of it. And earlier I used to make this note on the top right hand corner of my notebook. Now I make this note on my phone notebook. Like I'll give an example today. When I'm teaching in a dance class, I'm teaching you, a student will come to me and ask a doubt which I do not know. And usually that doubt will be, मतलब some student will ask me, sir, cellular level पे बताओ, ये X-ray ऐसा क्यों दिख रहा है? Somebody will ask me that, and sometimes I may not know. Well, there is no, harm in telling that, we are all human. So what I do is I take my phone, I type it in a notepad, ये जाके आज textbook से पढ़ना है, and I read that and I improve. Understand this? And that is the key. You need to explore again and again in a learning environment when you are learning in a classroom what I don't know, then go back and read from the book and ask the teacher again, and then build up that continuity. ताकि कोई gap in understanding नहीं रहेगा, and you will be able to top the exam and you will be able to do very well.
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर एंड थैंक यू मैम. सर अगला क्वेश्चन है कि अभी बच्चों की डिमांड आ रही है जनरल प्रमोशन को लेके, जो कोविड के कारण उनके एग्जाम्स नहीं हो पा रहे, सेफ्टी इश्यूज हैं उनके, और कुछ लोगों के टेन्योर भी लॉस हो रहा है. तो इसमें आपका क्या है कि व्हाट इज द बेस्ट फॉर मेडिकल स्टूडेंट ऑफ ऑल प्रॉब्लम?
So what I'll do is I'll give you an answer right now कि ये जो अभी चीजें हैं थोड़े दिन में, let's have patience. They will open up and gradually the government will also know what is to be done. Truthfully speaking, आज what I believe is no government or governing body in the world has an idea what to do. किसी को पता ही नहीं है अभी क्या करना है, वो रोज बदल रही है बातें. तो थोड़ा सा पेशेंस रखेंगे, things will sort out. And I think even the governing bodies and everything would have a softer view on the students and everywhere. कई जगह पे जैसे USMLE में उन्होंने अभी CS को बंद कर दिया 1.5 साल के लिए, and they are giving license without CS, step to CS because of the COVID कि बच्चे पेपर नहीं दे पा रहे. उसी तरह से इंडिया में भी there are places where they are promoting the students, there are places where the sessions are getting delayed, लेकिन gradually they will take a softer view on it. Once एक बार प्लेटो आने देते हैं, डिजीज का प्लेटो आ जाएगा, तब सबको सैनिटी मिलेगी और सोच पाएंगे. अभी आई डोंट थिंक एनी गवर्निंग बॉडी इज एबल टू थिंक राइट नाउ. उनका फोकस पूरा यही है कि डिजीज रोज 20,000 30,000 केसेस बढ़ रहे हैं. अभी दे आर अनएबल टू थिंक अबाउट द इम्प्लीकेशन फॉर ईच एंड एवरी प्रॉफ. आ जाएगा, सॉल्व होगा बच्चे. हैव पेशेंस राइट.
Thank you, sir. So the next question is how to balance the morals and values of empathy while seeing the ill treatment towards our doctors.
I think this is a very very important question. But मुझे क्या लगता है कि एक ना हम अपने आप को डॉक्टर और किसी और को कुछ और ऐसा ना सोच के, let's look at each one of us as a human being. है ना, हम सब human being and we all need to treat each other with empathy and respect. Once that starts happening, I think धीरे धीरे मतलब इंडिया के अंदर मैं जानता हूँ challenges हैं आज भी, और आप भी जानते हैं. मतलब I don't think we can talk about it at उसके बारे में कितनी भी बात करें कम है. Challenges हैं because.
And I think something that is going to help all us medical fraternity in this regard, and I am sure the students listening to me will agree, and Dr. Sumer, and I hope you all agree with me, that one of the major problems that we face when we are undergraduates or we are passing out our graduation is nobody is teaching us communication skills. Yes, there is no concept of communication skills as a doctor to a patient. And suddenly when we just pass out our undergraduation, आप छोटे ही हो अभी, and you are just in a big hospital with so many patients around, and there is a lot of stress, and a lot of times it is just the communication gap which is affecting us as doctor fraternity and the patient fraternity as well. So I think there is a big need of communication skills at the undergraduate level, where we are also taught to use what kind of words are we, should a doctor be using while communicating to a patient. And I think if that is brought into our curriculum, some things will improve. Some things may still not improve because of the doctor-patient ratio we have, and our fraternity is under a lot of load where we are not able to devote the kind of time where we are expected to devote, and I think that is a matter of debate, which we are not sort of in the right position to answer because.
But I am very optimistic about that. You know, in India, you will see an evolution. मैं जानता हूँ आप बच्चे जो पूछ रहे हैं कि कई बार कि why the general people in general are not respecting the doctors to the way we expect them to. But I think this is changing a lot. अभी बदल रहा है और I think with this pandemic, I think one thing that has come out as a silver lining here is that entire world today is valuing healthcare workers. अब से पहले किसने तालियां बजाई थी और कभी किसने थाली बजाई थी, and I feel so proud to be a doctor today. So I think things are improving. Let's have fingers crossed. और मुझे लगता है कि ऐसा नहीं कि सिर्फ ये जरूरत के समय ऐसा हो रहा है. I think this would now gradually go into the understanding of the people also that how important healthcare workers are.
And always although we shouldn't be, judging anybody's position or situation, but if you are at all doing that, because we're all humans and we would do that sometime or other, try and be in the other person's shoes. I think if we take just a minute and just be in the other person's shoes and then think whether their behavior is, there is a lot of time pain reflects as aggression. It is actually a pain which is reflecting as aggression, and these people need help because they are in pain, and it comes out as aggression because they have no other way to vent it out. It is sad. They need help, and that is why we say that you should not act in aggression, because the actions done in aggression often are really really bad, or don't go in good humor. So just try and be in another person's position, and then let's think and let's try and be kind. Not just doctors. As doctors, I think as human beings, let's just be kind in these tough times. It is really tough time for everyone, more so for the doctors. We need to be with each other and sort of support each other when required. I would say that.
And I think with development gradually in our country also, I think they will learn that we need to have more and more hospitals and facilities. वो बढ़ने से भी and number of doctors बढ़ने से भी, I think one of the biggest challenge in India is the workload that we all have. I think that is also a problem that in Muslim countries they are seeing 10 patients, 50 patients. Here sometimes we are seeing 100 patients, 200 patients. So that stress level is high in India on both sides. So I think I hope and I wish that gradually they all work towards improving the number of healthcare facilities.
Okay. So, key of consistency according to you?
Key of consistency.
I think I already said that direction, that invisible compass inside you that tells you that I have to go forward. नहीं तो consistency नहीं आ सकती. मतलब you need to know यार मुझे करना है यार, मुझे क्या करना है with this work.
And that's what I said. You have to have a why. If you don't have a why, it's very easy to get distracted, right? So if you really don't know why you are doing it for, what is the end point you are seeking and why you are seeking, believe me, in today's world, it is very easy to get distracted.
And I think, all the participants who are listening to us today, if, possible, if you go home today, just take up, sit in a empty room, relax and, have nobody around you. Just, you and yourself, take a paper and just write why, and just start to define your whys, why you are studying, why you meet this person, why you like this girl or boy and all those things. Why, more you explore your whys, better decision making you will be able to do. उस why का मतलब ये नहीं होना चाहिए I'm doing something to show to others. It has to be what you are. More what you are to yourself, better you will be able to remain consistent also. नहीं तो बार-बार बदलते रहेंगे हर जगह.
Thank you, sir. So there's this question that even after reading a subject twice or thrice, I'm not able to recall it while doing questions. Where is the mistake that I'm doing?
So I would again say that don't read to remember, read to understand. I'll give you an idea, and I think this idea might help you further. जिसने भी बच्चे ने पूछा है, that what you should do is next time when you read something, suppose you're reading a complex concept and you've read it, close your notebook and try teaching that concept to somebody else. Okay, that is called as Feynman technique. I have talked about it multiple times in my classes and my videos. That whenever you read a complex concept जो आपको लग रहा है आपको नहीं याद होगा, just after you read it, close it and try explaining to somebody else. When you will be trying to explain to somebody else, you will find gaps in your understanding not allowing you to speak. Then you read it again and this time you try to explain in simple language. If you are able to explain to the other person in simple language, it will stay with you for lifetime. And I think that always works because you're not trying to mug it up, you're trying to understand it and you're trying to tell your brain how to explain to others. When I'm explaining to others, I'm also explaining to myself.
So just like you said in your keynote that there are integrated questions coming on. So is there any change in the integrated study that we have to do while preparing?
Now, what I'll explain to you here is that integrated study at an undergraduate level, you have to depend on the teachers who are teaching you. Because when you are in second prof, for example, somebody in second prof, he cannot integrate surgery and pathology because he has not seen the other side. So you have to we have that perspective. The teacher is going to integrate it for you. But when you reach the end of your final year or you end of your internship, when you look back, you will see integration. Okay, so the integration is not going to happen in an antegrade manner. It is going to happen in a retrograde manner. I'll explain to you again. They say, like suppose in embryology they taught you that this is how the brain develops. But when you go to the pathology, they talk about Tau syndrome and they talk about holoprosenception, which is a problem with this non-way. And but you could not have understood pathology in anatomy year. But when you reach a pathology year, when you look back, now you know, okay, the anatomy person was also. And gradually, when you look back in life, you will find more, connections. So integration would happen in two methods. One is teachers teaching you in an integrated manner in the classroom. Second is when you finish your course and you start looking back, you'll understand more. For example, I tell you an example that when I read physiology in my internship, I was so surprised in my own time, ये तो medicine लिखी हुई है सारी. While in my first year, when I was reading physiology, I could not understand why the teacher is telling me about spirometry and the lung function test. But when I read medicine, it all made sense. So, थोड़ा सा patience भी रखेंगे. You will not be, integrating everything in the integrated manner. लेकिन end में जाने में सब जुड़ना चाहिए. Should be.
And I think he's absolutely correct on that because eventually that is the purpose of being a physician or a clinician, right? So when you're going to finally start your internship and start practicing as clinicians, you'll have to realize कि हो सकता है patient comes with a headache, मगर हो सकता है the disease is not in the head itself, right? It doesn't have to always be in the head. A patient may present with a dermatological manifestation, but may have a systemic disorder. So the entire purpose of this is to convert you into better people or clinicians eventually, so that when you see patients in real life, you are able to integrate things. It is so simple like saying a patient with peritonitis has a shoulder pain or a shoulder tip pain, right? Which you realize, although you've read the anatomy right in the first prof, phrenic nerve and all those things, but it start making sense to you when you really see those clinical presentations. Or so going to your clinics is a very good idea to to give you that excitement about integration and patient approach, I think. And it will help you and it will tell you that this is when you need the integration. And therefore, as he said, Dr. Sumaya said is right that in your pre and paraclinical prof, the first and the second prof, wait for the teacher to do the integration for you. When you come to final year, you will start seeing the application of it as well, because you are finally going to do the subjects which are going to manifest to you. See, a patient is never going to say, my heart has this problem, okay? So patient is going to have symptoms and you have to correlate those symptoms, join the dots and make a diagnosis. And that's the entire concept of even your professional exams, when we ask you, okay, this is your history, this is your GP, now tell me what are the provisional diagnoses. What are you doing? You're integrating. You're putting the clinical science with the theory and, coming up with an answer. So hold on to reach that stage and you will enjoy the integration as well.
Okay, sir, ma'am. How to increase sitting hours?
Although it is sitting hours. Now, I'm not a very big fan of working in the like number of hours. I'm more a fan of targets. Like somebody who's studying 12 hours a day but not finishing anything is not a good idea. So instead of hours, please give yourself targets. Let's suppose आपने pharmacology पढ़ना है, so you divide that pharmacology into chapters and those chapters into your target. That my target for the next 2 days is this chapter should be finished, or 3 days. And after you finish it, put a tick mark in your logbook that okay, this is what I finished. And then one revision, there should be another tick mark there. So I believe that you should give yourself targets. If you have targets, if you achieve the target a little early, little late, it should not be an issue.
And there's something probably that can help if you're really interested in increasing your hours is not doing one thing for a very long time. Which I mean, you could do some swapping. For example, when you get up in the morning and you feel you are more fresh, this is a good time to start with your theory content, do an anti-grade reading. A 3 hour or a 3.5 hour sitting is good enough at one time, and then you can take a little break. And then you do a little swapping, which I mean is now instead of doing the theory again after the break, maybe you could start solving questions on the topics that you have done in the morning. So that gives you a variety, and it increases your attention span as well. And this variety keeps you going for a longer period of time and also grasping things, right? And otherwise, yes.
That's a very pertinent point. Like balance your theory reading with the question bank and testing, and you'll be able to increase your hours.
Absolutely, sir. I'd request Prakhar to wrap up the Q&A round with last 1 or 2 questions.
Okay. So, how to fight with frustration with no idea of exam dates and proper schedule?
Yeah, what I'd say is that now that this kind of a scenario is today for everybody. Like even like if you imagine now,
There's a lot of uncertainty.
Suppose you were the president of America right now. Even you are not sure के election, what would happen with the election, how would I conduct my rally, and he's so much lost nowadays. So अभी तो सबके लिए ही है. But I always look at things with a positive perspective. If the exam date is not decided, maybe I'm getting a little bit more time. So let's go deeper into some subjects. Like we are always struggling between width and the depth. माने कि मुझे syllabus खत्म भी करना है और अच्छे से भी पढ़ना है. So now if I get extra time, I would like to go deeper into some things. If you're a second prof student, why not read more about vasculitis, go deeper into Robbins and try and understand some more chapters. And if you're a third prof student, थोड़ा PSM को और पढ़ते हैं, समझते हैं epidemiology क्या होता है. You understand? So we have the time, and the time, that luxury is there to get deeper into it. And let's read to understand. Like my I don't know if you would see it right now. When I finished my MD, and so whenever I'm traveling, after since I've finished my MD, and because of dams, we have like 250 centers across the country. So I'm traveling all the time. So every time I'm traveling, I buy a new book to read, and I'm so happy today that I'm reading to understand. I'm not reading to rote level. So sometimes I pick up a book on quantum physics. I pick up a book on any topic in the world. I love to pick up a book and read. I'm so happy with the liberty. So today you have that same liberty, that freedom, that the exams are postponed. एक बार समझने के लिए पढ़ते हैं ना. थोड़ा let's try to find out why that gene is causing a disease. Like we are rote learning that this chromosome is causing this. Let's try to find out the mechanism, and you love it. Like for example, in my classes, I keep telling about that there is a disease called as von Hippel-Lindau disease, and I don't know, some of you who are my students might have heard of this. In DHL, a gene is causing the hypoxia-induced protein to be produced in excess. Now the body is always thinking that there is hypoxia. So when the body is thinking there is hypoxia, so the blood vessels, they start to proliferate. And when the blood vessels proliferate, they become a low-grade tumor called as blood vessel is called as heme angio, Hemangioblastoma is the tumor. So you develop a brain tumor called as hemangioblastoma. And you also have a similar tumor in retina, hemangioblastoma of the retina. So, but if I did not explore the why behind it, that it is because of the hypoxia-induced protein, then you will not understand. But now if I ask you, will you have polycythemia in VHL, you will be able to correlate because you have hypoxia-induced protein getting produced in excess. Your body is thinking there is hypoxia, so it is also producing RBCs. You have polycythemia. So the key is, whenever you have time, read to understand. Read to understand. Read to become a good person. And you have the, I think it's a privilege to read about human body. It's a privilege, so go deeper into it.
Thank you so much, sir and ma'am. We are running short of time, so we have to stop the Q&A session here. I request you, I think we have covered all the aspects of the topic that we started. And if anything is left, I request you to please propose the concluding note.
Now, to conclude the session from our side today, we would first of all like to, comment and mention a few names. Just give me 1 second to do that. I might forget somebody I don't want to. So I want to thank the IMA Medical Student Network of MP and the current working council, Priyanshu Ranjan, Jagrati, who is in front of us on the screen, Hitesh Vyas and Prakhar Singh Thakur. And you were handed over the council by Shankur Devedi and Chetan Chaudhary. So what I believe is that these children who are taking this initiative, I want to compliment them. That initiative is the beginning of everything that is done in the world. हर कोई initiative नहीं लेता, है ना? But when you take the initiative, you create something for yourself also. You created an event for others, and you created an event for others to have their questions being solved. But in this entire organizing, you also learned many things: how to take people together, how to get them, and you could get your own answers as well. In some places. So I believe that don't forget and keep this trait with you, that you have the initiative. Keep taking initiatives. Because don't let that the negativity in the world affect you. सब बोलेंगे क्यों कर रहे हैं, क्यों कर रहे हैं, नहीं मुझे लगता है करना है तो करेंगे. Let's take this initiative. That is the beginning of it all.
Thank you so much, sir. This really means a lot coming from you. I request Prakhar Singh Thakur to propose the vote of thanks now.
Thank you, ma'am. I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed panelists, Dr. Sumesh sir and Deepti ma'am. It was really a beautiful session and would be remembered always. I am forever indebted to IMA MSN MP for giving me this opportunity, and will thanks to our state president, Dr. Priyanshu Ranjan sir, our NCM and co-moderator of this session, Dr. Jagrati ma'am, and our Hitesh sir, vice president, and my seniors. And special thanks to our technical support, ClearNet, editorial team, digital team, and very own intellectual and hardcore participants. Once again, I am Prakhar Singh Thakur, General Secretary, IMA MSN MP. Thanks everyone.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.